When Korg was founded in 1960s Tokyo, its initial products were organs. It wasn't until the next decade that Korg used its organ technology to expand its horizons toward the nascent synthesizer market. 6 decades on from those humble beginnings, Korg has released a wide variety of innovative, iconic synthesizers and other keyboards that span nearly the entire history of electronic music making, and you can use Reverb to keep an eye out for deals on vintage and modern Korg synths. Today we're focusing solely on Korg's original Polysynths, removing recent reissues, of which there are many highlights. Let's start at the beginning. The earliest of Korg's Polysynths, the Ensemble P is equipped with 60 keys, 2 filters for high and low pass, 7 orchestral presets, and divide-down circuitry. It's not to be confused with its sister instrument, Polyphonic Ensemble S, released in conjunction. While the S was designed for sustained sounds such as strings and choirs, the P was used for percussive sounds, such as imitation pianos and clavichords. This wood-paneled 3 VCO per voice semi-modular monolith of a machine was a massive upgrade to the slightly slimmed-down PS3100 released the same year, which had only 1 VSO in comparison, boasting a whopping 48 voice polyphony and 48 VCOs, VCFs, and VCAs. This was among the thickest compact synthesizer systems of its time, with an envelope generation and sample and hold functionality to boot. Once again utilizing divide-down oscillator technology, the Lambda continued in the tradition of the Polyphonic Ensemble line, this time combining both percussive with variable decay and ensemble sounds with variable attack and release. Though it was released at the same time as the similarly named Delta and Sigma, it was the only product that featured full polyphony on all sounds without the occurrence of note stealing. This 8-voice synth was divided into 3 independent sections: synthesizer, brass, and strings, each with their own unique VCO, VCF, and LFOs, and allowed for 2 patches to be played simultaneously through its split keyboard mode. Though there was no external MIDI or CV functionality, it did feature 16 user memory patches and a built-in flanger that could self-oscillate with controls for speed, feedback, and intensity. The Mark II, introduced 2 years later, added a tape interface, doubled the memory, and other features. This appropriately named 6-voice synth has much in common with Roland's Juno 6, released the following year. Both keyboards were a chance for consumers to buy a programmable polysynth on a shoestring budget, containing 32 memory patches, 1 VCO and sub-oscillator per voice. The sound could be thickened up through both built-in chorus and ensemble effects. Released the same year as the Polysix was this monophonic polyphonic hybrid. Its 4 VCOs, each equipped with their own level, tuning, and waveform control, could either be shared in a 4-voice mode or linked in unison for a thicker mono lead. Pack in a built-in arpeggiator, sequencer, portamento, and chord memory, and you end up with one of Korg's most versatile and compact synths to date. As a 61-key successor to the Polysix, the Poly 61 worked in 2 DCOs and was among the first of Korg's products to include their famous joystick, which could be used to adjust the VCO and VCF. Though the functionality wasn't included in its initial make, its follow-up version, released in 1984 as the Poly 61M, was the first Korg synth to feature MIDI. If the Poly 6 finds an easy comparison to Roland's Juno 6, this 8-voice synth surely aligned to the upgrades found on the Juno 106, though it was far more lightweight, namely stable DCOs, easy programming, and MIDI functionality. The Poly 800 had just 1 DCO per voice, but the oscillators could be stacked for a fuller sound through its double mode, limiting the synth to 4 voices of polyphony. You'll also find chord memory, a chorus effect, a simple sequencer, and 3 digital envelope generators. This synth ran on batteries and was complete with guitar strap pegs, allowing the player to wear it like a keytar. An upgrade from Korg's first digitally controlled analog hybrid, the DW6000, this house techno staple doubled its digital waveforms from 8 to 16, and worked in a velocity-sensitive keyboard, an arpeggiator, auto bend, and a digital delay that offered up to 512 milliseconds. In a similar manner to the Poly 6, its 8 voices could be played in polyphony or stacked together to create a fat mono lead. A product of Korg's brief affair with sampling synthesizers, this versatile 12-bit machine would be their only sampler until the Triton workstation and Electribe boxes would be introduced the next decade, on top of 2 oscillators per 8 voices, twin digital delays, up to 5 seconds of sampling, and a particularly resonant filter. It included a simple additive synthesis engine, which enabled users to create single-cycle waveforms on the fly. As a direct response to digital competitors like the D50 and DX7, this 4-operator per voice FM synth was another early instance of joystick implementation, performance controls, and digital effects such as chorus and flanger. Released the same year was the compact and stripped-down 707, which shared the same engine, though deprived of effects. At the time of its manufacturing, this 61-key workstation was one of the best-selling synthesizers of all time, and still remains one of Korg's greatest successes. It introduced the company's state-of-the-art AI synthesis, which allowed for 4 megabytes of PCM-sampled synthesis waveforms to be shaped using analog-style editing. Also packed in was an 8-track synthesizer, 8 parts of multi-timbrality, and a wide array of digital multi-effects. The success of the M1 led Korg down the rabbit hole of developing more workstations, beginning with 1991's O1W. This synth was the first of Korg's products to utilize wave sequencing technology, picking up where Dave Smith left off during his development of vector synthesis at Sequential. Wave sequencing enabled short segments of sampled audio to be stitched and crossfaded together, allowing for esoteric and ethereal sound design potential. Though programming proved to be an obstacle, its 2 megabytes of samples, 32 voice polyphony, and a multi-effects unit enabled this unit to produce some lush digital textures. Arguably a polyphonic successor to the more compact Prophecy monosynths from 2 years prior, this 12-voice and 61-key analog modeling synth boasted 13 waveforms, 4 LFOs, 2 filters, and multi-effects units, creating plenty of potential for sonic sculpting. Though deprived of an onboard sequencer, its polyphonic arpeggiator, filter controls, and touch-controlled XY pad allowed patches to be tweaked in a pinch. This 4-voice synth was initially intended to market the tone and functionality of Korg's earlier monophonic MS series, including the MS-10 and MS-20, to a new audience, this time through virtual analog synthesis. It was released as both a 44-key synthesizer and a rack module, which when paired together could create an 8-voice synth controlled on either unit, triumphing over the limitation in polyphony. In addition to 2 oscillators and LFOs with sample and hold, this synth also included a 16-band vocoder, which could be accessed via an onboard XLR input. Continuing in the virtual analog workflow popularized by the MS-2000, came this compact, 4-voice battery-operated bestseller that remains in production 20 years after its release. With 128 presets organized by genre, its 5 knobs naturally control filter cutoff, resonance, envelope attack, and release times, although they can be assigned to control other parameters of a patch. Complete with a built-in vocoder input microphone and step arpeggiator, the Micro-Korg saw various mutations in the following years, including 2008's Micro-Korg XL, which allowed for more advanced editing, and the all-white Micro-Korg S, released in 2016, which worked in built-in speakers and double the patch memory. The Micro-Korg seems macro when compared to Korg's Volca units, a series of battery-powered pocket-sized synthesizers, drum machines, and bass synths that are surprisingly versatile. The Volca Keys was introduced with the initial line and incorporated a delay effect, a simple sequencer, and a filter section borrowed from the Mini Korg 700S. 3 years later came the 6-voice, 6-operator Volca FM, which combined the above features with a very convincing emulation of the Yamaha DX7. Keeping with Korg's trend of compact products in the 21st century, came this 37-key analog synth with 4 voices and flexible configuration that brought sleek programmability to the next level. This time, it included a step and motion sequencer, 200 program memories, a tape-style delay, several sound sculpting and filter options, and an oscilloscope display to top it all off. 2019 saw the release of the Minilog XD variant, which doubled the presets, introduced a hybrid analog-digital synth engine, and a variety of time-based and modulation effects. Korg brought it back to scale with this versatile 61-key analog synth, touting 16-voice polyphony, 3 oscillators per voice with 2 analog and 1 FM wavetable, split, layer, and crossfade options, and 4 voice modes, monophonic, polyphonic, unison, and Korg. For this particular synth, Korg developed a filter design with its own dedicated drive circuit for advanced harmonics and low-frequency compensation to tame unruly bass tones. As if that wasn't all, the I/O can be synced with a variety of Korg gear, including vocal modules and electric drum machines. This 3-octave, 6-operator FM powerhouse has been described by Korg as having an altered approach to frequency modulation. It features 6 different waveforms, each with their own fader for easy editing and sculpting, 11 filters modeled after previous Korg products like the MS-20 and the Polysix, and an option of 30 different high-definition effects. Much like the Minilog, it also includes a sequencer, spectrum analyzer, and oscilloscope. 30 years after the Wave Station, Korg returned to wave sequencing with this 37-key synth. This time, the architecture consists of an impressive 64 stereo voices of polyphony, a 2 GB sound library, as well as 4 simultaneous sound layers that can once again be blended via joystick. The upgraded parameters allow users to manipulate pitch, sample duration, gate times, and step sequencer values, breathing new life into the wave sequencing concept. While the Wave State updated the framework of the Wave Station, this synth, also 37 keys, revisited and upgraded the wavetable synthesis of the DW8000. The mod wave is bundled with over 200 wavetables, several stereo filters, and an extensive PCM sample library, not to mention its very own KS pad, allowing performance controls to reach new heights. For over 40 years, Korg has been at the forefront of new sounds and technologies associated with moving synthesizers to the next level, and they have continued that trend today, offering some of the most popular and affordable polysynths on the market.